You're listening to the Late Night Football Show with your host, Rohit Singh. That's me. On this show, we talk about some of the most seriously silly topics from the world of football for your entertainment and enjoyment. Please remember that the show is BYOL. Bring your own laughs, since we don't have the budget for a studio audience. Happy listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this really special edition of Late Night Football. So special, we needed 3 weeks to prepare for this one. So basically, this is what happens when you get too excited to start the show and forget to hit the record button. At least we have made sure that it's pressed this time. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay, it is. Yeah. All right. Anyway, it is a really special day, and I would like to welcome our friends from Fox in the Box over to the show. For those of you who are not aware, Fox in the Box is a beautiful Facebook group of sports-minded people who, if you love sports, any kind of sports, and want to share your views on the latest topics or hear what other people have to say, or occasionally argue different viewpoints with other people, that is the place to be. Links are in the description below, so feel free to join if you are interested. It's completely free. All you need is a Facebook account. If you do have one of those, you can also like our page on Facebook. Links for that are in the description as well. All right, let's get into today's show. Unfortunately, Shashwat Mukherjee was unable to join us today, so we're back to the original 4 football experts that we had picked from the last time joining us today. Statsman Adarsh Nim, a die-hard Manchester City fan, Ayush Gupta, an over-the-moon Liverpool fan, as they all are right now, Nishikant Sharma, a somber Chelsea fan after what happened in the FA Cup and the prospect of what's going to happen in the Champions League knockout rounds. We're doing this before the knockout round, by the way, just so you know. And Samir Paranjape, a level-headed Manchester United fan, and there's no bias at all in that statement. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Hi, guys. It's nice to be here.
Hey, guys. Hey, thank you for having us.
Yes.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having here.
Yeah, it is my pleasure and honor to have you guys as well. And thank you for being so supportive. So it's been a great and unusual Premier League season, not least because of COVID-19 and the lockdown, and then also Liverpool winning the title for the first time in 30 years, because that is unusual. I'm sorry, but if you
almost as bad as COVID.
Yeah, no, and I'm sorry, but if you have been watching this show, you will know that I can't resist my Liverpool digs. But anyway, it has been exciting in some regards, like the race for the European places and relegation spots. They went right down to the final minutes of the season. And in some other regards, like the title run, it was pretty boring if you weren't a Liverpool fan. And then there was VAR, which I don't even know where to place it, but we'll talk about it on this show, so we'll see how that goes. But however, the end of the domestic season is a great time to analyze things. So here we are. Let's first take a look at the Premier League table. And as we can see, Liverpool finished top of the charts, well clear of Manchester City in second, the deposed champions. Manchester United finished third, which was only their third top 4 finish post Alex Ferguson. And Frank Lampard's Chelsea finished fourth in their first season under him. Leicester, heartbreakingly, missed out on Champions League football on the last day, but they and Spurs will play in the Europa League along with Arsenal, who won the FA Cup, which means Wolves in 7th will definitely not play in the Europa League next season. They might still qualify for the Champions League, though, if they can win the Europa League competition this month. And at the bottom, Norwich got straight back down to the Championship next season. Once again, spending only 1 season in the Premier League. They will be joined by Bournemouth and Watford, who had 4 different managers this season. And that was really classy of them. West Ham and Aston Villa survived for another season, as do Crystal Palace and Newcastle United, whose fans are still waiting to hear if the Saudis will take over their club. And also congratulations to Leeds, West Brom, and Fulham for being promoted next season to the Premier League from the Championship. All right, let's begin with the champions, and also let's get this out of the way first. But Ayush, how does it feel to see Liverpool as champions of England for the first time in your lifetime?
Yeah, Rohit. So the feeling is pretty overwhelming, and I've waited a long time for this day. Actually, my birth year is also coincidentally 1990, when we were last time champions. So it has taken complete 30 years of my life.
After you were born, though.
Before I was January. Yeah.
January. Oh, okay.
My birthday is
Liverpool have won a title in your lifetime before this.
Yes, yes. It's like Harry Potter. I've been given a birthmark by Voldemort, but I don't know. I will be the bird savior. So similarly for Liverpool also, I initially thought that maybe I am the bad omen. So at least that thing has been put past it. That monkey is off my shoulder now. Yes, we are champions again.
Has it sunk
And
in yet?
yeah.
Has
No,
it?
no, no, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, the celebrations are still not complete. I mean, due to the COVID situation, I mean, we have not been able to vent our complete feelings, the overjoyness and everything. So once the things get back to normal, we will be on the streets and let the other rival fans also know that who's the champion of
You
this.
already know.
Well, I just have to say thank you for arriving to this show sober at least, because I know that most Liverpool fans have been very much been enjoying the celebrations. But on that note, Samir, as a United fan, what do you think of seeing Liverpool as champions of England?
I'm not happy about it in some ways. Obviously, you don't want to see Liverpool win the title and get close to United, because the whole Alex Ferguson thing of knocking Liverpool off their perch now, well, they're coming back for it. So I really don't like it when they win a title. But hopefully next season, with United getting better, we can challenge them and we can actually see a proper rivalry for once, because that's never happened in my lifetime. I've never lived in a world where United and Liverpool have both been at their best. So that's going to be exciting. So in a way, I'm glad that Liverpool are good now, but I'm still not happy that they won the title.
They've been good for 2 seasons, by the way. Not good now, but I can see that. No, I understand. But so it was really great to see Liverpool win the title in some regards, and they did it in record time. They won the title like the earliest of any team ever in history. But if there's one solace that can be taken by us, by rival fans, it's that once they won the title, they pretty much slowed down, and they were on course to break a bunch of records, and they didn't break most of them. I think they equaled a couple, but they didn't break most of them, like the Centurions record, the most wins in a season record. Was that just winners' fatigue, or do you think there are areas that in that squad that still need to be improved for next season? Ayush?
I mean, the squad building of this Liverpool team has been a great lesson for everyone, for every manager. The way Klopp has built the team from scratch. I mean, the team which was given to him by Brendan Rodgers when Brendan Rodgers left, to see that team come so far. And the signings have been brilliant. The squad building has been just perfect. The hiring, the recruitment, everything just gelled together so that we could make this brilliant team which has dominated all over England and Europe now. So the mission has been accomplished, but to sustain it, definitely the squad needs more improvement. As you suggested that we have slowed down a bit after the restart. So it shows that nothing is constant in football, at least. So these same players, they are still there in their prime, but definitely they need some boost. They need some push and the motivation once more to go again. And so for that, they need some backup in the forward area for the cover for Firmino. Backup for Robertson is must. And we are looking into the market. I mean, Jamal Lewis from Norwich, I think, is linked with Liverpool. And other areas, I think we are pretty much covered. Lovren has left. He was also an integral part of the squad. I mean, not in the first team, but at least in back rooms. In the back room, he was like the best friend of Salah. So I hope Mohamed Salah is not angry with Liverpool. So he needs to be kept happy for our own good.
But I really rate the Jamal Lewis signing, because from whatever I've seen of him this season, he's just been brilliant. Like
He's
for
a very good player.
a guy that young, he seems to have a very good head on his shoulders.
That's what Liverpool has been excelling
I read the
at.
news that his bid got rejected the same day of Liverpool, 10 million bid. So
I mean, we will get him eventually, because it's Norwich. It's not like they can run the negotiations.
Yeah.
Well, they might be holding out for 15 or 20. But on that note, others, do you agree? What gaps? Do you see any gaps in the squad at the moment?
The only gap I see is the backup gap because Liverpool is a complete team right now, fully packed team. They have good strikers, good midfielders, good defenders, a good goalkeeper as well. They only need a good backup for every position, I would say, because each and every position they have first team players, but no other player is able to fill in those boots once the player is injured. For example, if you take Mohamed Salah, if he gets injured, the only left foot right winger they have is Shaqiri, which has been a bad signing for Liverpool, not in the price way, I would say, but in a performance way. He has been on and off for Klopp. And the same way for Van Dijk, if he goes off, I don't think another defender would come in and fill in that space. Lovren is gone, and Gomez is there, who is a very good defender as well. And Matip is decent, but they still need one more centre back to fill in that gap if the main player gets injured. And this is the biggest thing which I think Liverpool should focus on, the depth of the squad. So
But
within
no,
one or
you're
two,
absolutely right in one sense that if Van Dijk gets injured, they don't have a replacement of that caliber. But if you sign a replacement of the Van Dijk caliber, you can't have them be a rotation player, right? He would have to be a starter because you can sign a Koulibaly, for example, and then say, you know what, you'll play if Van Dijk gets injured.
no,
We are linked with
you
Mandi.
can't.
Mandi. Yeah, we are linked with
You
Mandi. I think
can,
he's the centre back from.
yeah, you can't buy two players with same caliber. That's obvious, but there can't be two stars at the same position until unless they are partner there. But they already have Joe Gomez who is stepping up for them with the partnership of Van Dijk. All they need is a decent backup because I don't see Lovren, who was a decent backup. He used to be a disaster at the back for Liverpool. He used to attract so many fouls and all. So they still need a decent backup. And as Ayush said, some Mandip or some other guy, I've never heard of him.
Mandi.
Mandi, yeah, they're after him. Hopefully, he'll be more comical, just like his name in the defense for us. So let's see how Liverpool goes.
What are your thoughts on Firmino?
Firmino, a pressing merchant. I would say any other midfielder would fill in that position. I would say a skillful midfielder would fill in that position. This season, he has been a real off for Liverpool because he is not able to produce goals. He had like 2 or 3 goals in this whole calendar year, and not even the best assist provider this season for Liverpool. And I believe if Chamberlain remains injury proof for the future and plays in the same role, he can be better than Firmino. So I think Firmino needs to step up, or Liverpool can actually bring in some good competition for him because he knows that he can't be dropped by Klopp. So until unless he have some competition in that position, he'll just perform the same way, the pressing way.
Ayush, do you agree? I know Liverpool fans rate Firmino a lot, even despite his lower statistics. But what are your thoughts on that?
Firmino, I think, is integral to our team. He makes the whole team complete and makes everyone tick. So he is the big part of the puzzle and the jigsaw which Klopp created the squad around. So you take out Firmino and replace him with Oxlade-Chamberlain or Origi or anybody else, and the team doesn't click that way. I mean, Origi scores here and there whenever you think he pops up with a goal or two, but when you as a Liverpool supporter, I watch the complete 90 minutes and not give more focus or to the stats. So I can observe that Firmino, how he's affecting the game. His small, neat tricks and flicks, they make the opposition. He drags the defenders towards himself. He drops deep down, and Salah and Mane, they play as the strikers. So he is the playmaker in this team. The midfield they are the workhorses. The Gini Wijnaldum, Theo Henderson, and every other Fabinho. These are their job is to just snatch the ball away from the opposition and give it to Firmino, and then Firmino brings the others into play. The
Being a
wingers.
playmaker and still not able to get assists. Irony.
No, he.
Coming back to the whole Harry Potter thing. So you're saying Firmino is kind of like the Snape? He's doing work in the
I
background.
think what he's saying is Firmino is what Jorginho was supposed to be,
Oh.
and
Suppose.
probably better. With
No,
his-
but on that note, though, I mean, if we are talking that Firmino is not, who could play that role? Is there a player out there that can play that role? Is there?
Like I said, Liverpool doesn't have a backup for him right now. They don't have a player with that caliber who can challenge challenge Firmino at that position.
Who do you think could
So-
be a player? Let's leave money aside. Who do you think could be that player who could challenge him? Who could play in
They
that
wanted
position?
Werner, so they couldn't have the hands on Werner. So they need to find a different striker, whosoever it's available. Like
But then
Jovic,
Firmino is not a striker, right?
Yeah,
That's what I said. He's not a striker.
but
Werner would
still,
have been a replacement for Salah, I think, not Firmino. Werner is like a replacement for Salah or Mane, not Firmino. Firmino's role is more similar to, you can say, maybe in City who can like Foden or Silva.
What do you think
No,
about
it's-
Ayush?
Yeah.
What do you think about Mueller?
Muller.
Thomas Muller is now old, I think. I mean, it's too old. In his prime, definitely he could do a job.
he has 21 assists this season. He is not old enough to.
I mean, he's not tested in, but I mean, Bayern, that Bundesliga is Farmers League now. So.
Okay, yeah. I think we're getting a bit off track here, but it's a lot of shit
you got Firmino from Bundesliga itself, didn't you?
from Hoffenheim.
Yeah,
Yes,
so-
that's right.
Yeah.
You got Klopp from the Bundesliga, let alone Firmino.
From the Farmers League. Is your manager a Farmer League manager?
We are getting the best crops. We are harvesting the best crops on there.
Okay.
Nice.
That's actually a good one. But okay, so based on that, then others, then do you think that if you think that there are gaps needed to be addressed, do you think that there are gaps that, I mean, is there a way for other teams to get back in it next season? I mean, it was not much of a contest this season, but is there hope for teams next season to get closer?
Yeah, there are hopes because somewhere or the other, middle down in the line, I think Liverpool would lose the intensity which they lost this season after the restart, after they won the league. I think they'll lose that hunger which City lost this season because they have won so many trophies within Europe and domestic as well, but they still need to keep that momentum going, and that momentum can only be achieved with some quality backups, and they would struggle, according to me, the next season.
Nishikant, he talked about intensity, and one thing that I know is that, I mean, I know right now tentatively the plan is to have fans back on 1st October, but I think it looks like there will be a sorry, excuse me. It will be at least a while before fans come back. Is that lack of fans going to contribute to the lack of intensity at Anfield, at least for Liverpool? Do you think that's going to affect them? And maybe
I think the players have played enough matches right now in this same condition. They should have gotten somewhat used to it by now. I would expect that. They have played like 8-9 matches, so that should be enough to get acclimatized to the empty stadium. So I don't think that should be a challenge. In fact, by October we will have fans.
that's the hope right
that's
now.
The,
but
yeah,
I think it's too
that's the
optimistic,
tentative. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully that shouldn't be too much of an issue for Liverpool. But the point which Adarsh mentioned about the backups, the lack of backups, that can come back to bite them because these players have played at high intensity for last 2 seasons.
Mhm.
The amount of points they have scored. They won Champions League. They went to the final that season. Then they won Premier League this season. So there's surely going to be some fatigue at some point in time. Right? And if you don't have enough backups, then that can prove challenging. That being said, I see, it won't be that easy for them. Anyway, I wasn't hoping for it. I think City will bounce back. They'll have to, invest in a few things, but I think they'll bounce back and there'll be a tough challenge for Liverpool or whoever. I think it'll be a 2-horse race still, but these two will be up there.
Speaking of fatigue, though, I think Liverpool will probably benefit from not having to play any football this month, whereas City, hopefully, we hope they will go deep. Maybe they won't, but maybe they will go deep in Europe. And that may be a factor as well. But we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah.
For that. But final thoughts then on this one. Ayush, what do you think Liverpool need to do to prepare for next season?
I mean, Klopp is a great motivator. So he must set new targets and break the old records which you couldn't break this season. Like he can again go for century and again century points and again go for unbeaten. Our record at home currently is great. So only next to Chelsea's record. So we can hopefully continue winning and at Anfield and make it a fortress once more.
One very good reason for you to win the title next year.
Yeah.
20 right now.
Yeah. Yes, that is again a great motivation for us. I mean, this team is a once in a lifetime. This is such a complete squad we have. So we should make as much utilization of it as possible and win as many titles as possible. So the Klopp is here. It's a good opportunity for us.
Nishikant, anything to add to that?
Oh yeah, I agree with what Ayush said, but I think they do need fresh legs just to give some more competition even within the squad, because these players have won everything. They've won domestic titles, they've won European championships, so they can get complacent, and Klopp needs to be wary about that. And couple of fresh legs, but yeah, I agree that he's a very good motivator. That guy is a very good coach, not just tactically but also the
very good hugger.
management skills. Yes, very good. Defeat clearly hasn't humbled you, so
He's a number one.
so yeah, he's a very good hugger, and that will come to his aid. So
Yeah. Do you see any young players stepping up next season? I mean, we're talking fresh legs. Are there any young players in the squad that you would like to see step up?
no, I think their first squad is really good, but apart from that, I haven't. I'm not very familiar with how good their youth academy is right now, and how.
Because nobody has heard a good name from the Liverpool squad as a youth prospect.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Apart from the Liverpool fans.
That's not true. I mean, there's Curtis Jones, there's Nico Williams, there's Harvey Elliott. That's just off the top of my
Yeah,
head. I know
but if
three
they
players.
can, if we just count them as backup, then the drop is too steep between their current first team and that. So they need something to fill that in.
Yeah, no,
So
Ayush,
they will need.
Yeah, I think Ayush, you're the right person to answer that. Do you see any young players stepping up from Liverpool?
Trent is already doing a great job. I mean, let's not forget he's 21 years old only, so he can only get better. And his natural position is suggested to be in midfield rather than as right back. So maybe he can jump into the center and dictate the game as Gerrard used to do. Apart from that, Curtis Jones is also showing great promise. And we have also Ryan Brewster and guys like Harry Wilson, who is a great dead ball specialist. So maybe if he's sold, we'll get good money from him. Otherwise, he can be a good squad player like Lallana, because Lallana is leaving. So there's definitely a gap in the squad, and the youngsters have a great opportunity to grab their places and impress Klopp.
Well, especially if you guys don't have money to spend. But thank you, Ayush. Thank you, Nishikant, for that response. And that's enough Liverpool for one show. I think we'll move on to the next one, which is the deposed champions, Manchester City. It was Adarsh, what went wrong with City? I mean, aside from Laporte's injury, I know every City fan likes to use that as the main reason. But aside from Laporte, were there any other reasons that City had such a tough time?
City had problem with the mentality. After winning back-to-back titles, after creating so many records, after achieving so many appreciation from everywhere, and they lacked mentality. After the departure of Vincent Kompany, who was the sole leader of our club, he was the heart of our club within the dressing room and on the pitch. When he left the club, it was full void. No player was able to fulfill that place, because every other player who was experienced as him, whether it's Fernandinho, Aguero, David Silva, they all lacked that leadership quality and that flair which was there on the field. So there was no one to argue with the ref on the field if something goes wrong, because the captain right now is David Silva. He was the one who was usually usually fouled by the players. He was the one who was on the ground. So no one's there to talk to the ref about the foul. No one is there to
Do you need someone to
guide.
argue with the ref for a foul?
Because I believe that it creates pressure on the ref, because he knows that there is some players who can oppose him for the strong decision he makes, because it creates a good balance in the team. It guides the other players as well. It works as a motivation who can guide from back. So that's the mentality issue. There's a leadership quality issue which we are having right now, and plus the defense issue which we're having, because Laporte only played like 13 to 14 games this season because of his injury, who is obviously a vital part of Manchester City. But the sub part of centre back was mostly filled by Fernandinho, who is obviously who is over his age. He is 35 years old. He was being reconstructed to a different position from defensive midfielder to a centre back, which is not easy for any player. And no other defender is able to fill in that gap. Otamendi is past his prime. Stones was a decent player, but until this season, he lost all his confidence and his form, and he is not able to bring that back as well. So we are already looking to offload him to other clubs like West Ham or Everton. So we need a decent player who can be with Laporte, if not better than Laporte, at least be there with him. And we also need a leader to step up. For example, Kevin De Bruyne has some skills, has some leadership qualities. I think he'll be our captain for now onwards, if not Aguero.
Okay, Samir, I'll put this over to you. But before I do, I just want to mention to everyone listening that on air, we have a Manchester City fan saying that his players should influence the referee more. I know there's always talk about Man United fans who never, there's City fans saying that right on air. So I'm just saying that. But Samir, your thoughts on Adarsh asking for refs to be influenced openly and be on the mentality issue for City. Do you agree with that?
I agree with the mentality thing, because City didn't look like winners this season. Like they didn't play like champions. They had games where they were thrashing opponents 5-0 and 6-0, but again they had games where they just lost and there was just no initiative whatsoever once they went down. It felt like they were clueless at points this season. And despite scoring more goals than anyone else and conceding, I think, less goals than anyone but Liverpool, they've still ended the league with like a 16-point or 17-point difference, which is ridiculous for a team that on paper looks so good and has scored so many goals, conceded so few. So I think mentality was definitely the biggest issue. And also, I think you can say it's kind of the end of the golden generation for City, with all their previous legends retiring or moving on. I think Aguero is the only one left of that.
Yeah, right now it's only Aguero who
everyone knows about. So definitely I feel like it was a bit of a transitional year for them, moving on from the past and trying to build a new squad with new leaders and better the same kind of connect.
City's regrowth was something which went like under the radar, because we were still winning games with good margin and trophies as well. If you see a squad like before the Pep, it was completely different squad, and after the Pep, it was redefined by Pep. Basically, all our players' average age was around 30 and 31. And after Pep's introduction, the average age was brought down to 23 and around 23 to 25. So that's a difference that's a team which United has been trying to make from past 6 to 7 years. That's a team Liverpool has been trying to make for so many years. Same for Chelsea. But City's development, City's restructured squad has went under the radar because they are still winning trophies and games with some good margins. So that's the thing.
Clubs, we can't just spend $350 million every winter.
Oh, okay. We'll leave that one aside. We'll come to that.
Just on defenders.
Yes.
That is just on defenders.
Yeah, we were unlucky with that. I would just say that, because I can't defend not spending money. We were just unlucky with the spendings and the players, and with our injuries as well.
Hey, take it from Samir. We United fans know exactly what it feels like spending money and not being successful with it. Yeah. and we'll get to that one. But on that note, I think you have hit some talked about mentality issues, and it is actually correct because City lost more games than Manchester United this season. Make of that what you will. It was a very incredible stat when I saw that. But I mean, the one thing that is there is that, and there's another controversial thought from that came to my mind. Is this a team in decline? Is this a manager in decline? And here's what I read: is that most managers, they have 10 years at the top with any given set of tactics. And if you look at Pep, this was his 11th season, and the next one will be his 12th. He's never stayed at a club for more than 4 years. He'll be staying for his fifth year at City. This will be his fifth year. So, are there any warning signs there in terms of these things that people talk about when it comes to football? Is there a problem there, Nishikant, in terms of City being in decline and Pep being in decline?
I think decline is probably too harsh a word here.
Yeah.
They definitely set the bar too high because they were that good last season. So they are kind of guilty of that. That's why people are now talking so much or are in so much awe that City could not defend what would have been their third successive title race. So ideally, it was expected of them that they should win the third one. So they were kind of under the weight of that expectation as well. But there are many factors like Samir and others covered those. I think saying that it's just mentality would be oversimplifying it. There are other factors. They have lost company and they simply have not replaced him. Not as a defender, as a leader. But it's difficult to scout for leaders. You scout for different attributes. Leadership is probably the hardest one to do that for. So that has been the case, and they have had some major injury issues with Laporte, Sane, Silva. Aguero has been injured throughout the season. I mean, during the course of season as well. So, but this could still score 100 plus goals. I mean, obviously Liverpool leapfrogged them, but who actually came close to them? How much difference is there between second and third? So you see, no one really came close to City, right? So they were defeated by one of the best teams I have ever seen in Premier League, the current Liverpool team. And probably one of the best in Europe. So I don't think, decline is too harsh. And coming to Guardiola, you mentioned about 10 years. I don't think, I think Guardiola has what it takes to he's building a squad. Like it was mentioned that average age came down from 30 or so years to 20 to 23. So he's definitely building a team for the future. And he's too good a manager to be found out so early in his career. So I think he'll
as well.
Sorry, Samir, could you repeat?
Sorry, Samir?
A lot of people said that about Jose as well, but I mean, I don't think he's at the top anymore.
That is confirmational bias on Samir's part. I'd say I don't think that's confirmation bias kind of thing because
by the 10-year logic, Alex Ferguson should have retired a long time ago. Don't you think so?
No, that's what I said. Like with the set.
Well, Alex Ferguson didn't really have that good a competition to begin with in the
what I meant
during
is
his early
10
days.
years. Sorry, just to clarify, when I say 10 years with the set tactics, then they got to change it up. And so that was where Sir Alex was good, was that he always changed it up every 2 years. So Pep hasn't changed his philosophy much in terms of style of play and all that. We know what we get. So that's kind of what I meant. I don't generally agree with it. I don't think you can ever put a timeline for people in terms of
I think it's difficult for managers to do that. If you have spent so much time in something, it becomes your second nature. So you can't
especially
totally
when you
let
win
go
something
of that.
with that.
Yeah. So you can't let go of something like that. But I think Pep has it in him to make enough tweaks, just enough to confuse the opponents at times, and they'll be able to. I think with a few new signings, they'll be able to come back into the fold.
I should say confuse opponents and confuse us as fans as well sometimes. So Ayush, I mean, I think it's fair to say that Nishikant doesn't think it's a team in decline, and maybe that is correct. But then there were personnel issues. Are there players there that are not pulling their weight? Is it a case of Pep maybe underestimating the resources that he needed for the title again this season? What do you think of it?
I think it's a mixture of all the things. I mean, the team is definitely on a decline because their golden generation has left. I mean, Company, Silva, Fernandinho, Aguero is also just a mid-part player now. I mean, he's not able to play the complete season. Whatever he does, he manages to score a lot of goals, but still, I mean, he's not available for maybe half of their matches. But Kevin De Bruyne is like currently pulling his strings. I mean, he's a world-class player and their best bet. So on his day, he can defeat teams on his own. So, but when he doesn't click, that's when Manchester City fell apart. I mean, the stat which you gave, like they have lost more matches than United. When in the last 2 seasons they got 100 points and 98 points, shows that the other teams are better equipped to handle Pep's formation. I mean, they play with a low block, and then their defenders, they are not quick enough, and Stones, and they are not leaders. So any good striker like Aubameyang and these kind of guys who are fast, they can easily break the defense line, and score past Henderson. So these are the small things which are making the difference. And also, City is very wasteful in the chances. I mean, they create so many chances, I see, and they squander so many chances. So they need a clinical striker. I mean, Jesus is definitely not the answer. I mean, he's just been there for the past 3 or 4 years, but he's not been able to take the mantle from Aguero. So once they are able to fix these small issues, I mean, then already they have got a great squad. So I hope they are not able to find those solutions for the sake of other clubs. But yeah, I mean, they have already signed Nathan Ake for 40 million. I don't know if he's worth that much, but Pep is already looking for solutions. So yeah, it would be a good fight again.
Well, 40 million only gets you half of Maguire. So, I think perspective on that. One of the things when it comes to personnel is that David Silva is leaving the club after a decade at Manchester City. A wonderful player, wonderful servant for the club. I actually remember watching him at Valencia when he was with David Villa, and it was a big thing having 2 Davids in the same team. It's very wonderful to see him. But I guess they're not going to buy a player. They don't need to buy a replacement for Silva because they do have Phil Foden in the ranks. Someone who I remember hearing about, like, it's been 3 years now. I think it's been 3 years since he won the Under-17 World Cup. So he's been around for a while now. Is this his turn? Is this his chance now to step up and take that place and make it his own?
Yeah, this is the particular time. This is the time what City fans and Pep Guardiola was waiting for, the departure of David Silva. As soon as David departs from City after the Champions League fixtures and games, it will be Foden's years and the Foden time for to come, because he's the ideal replacement for David Silva in the City squad. And once David leaves, he'll be pulling the strings for us. And he's got that rhythm. He's dynamic there, as Silva was in his early days as well. Silva used to play on wings as well. He drift apart. And same with Foden. He likes to play on the wings as well under Pep Guardiola. As he said in this recent interview as well, that he likes to be dynamic and be as helpful to the team as he can while playing on the wings or as a false nine as well. So he's there to help Manchester City get all the things done while being in a mid role. And even if he gets a bit out of form or if he struggles, I think it will be Bernardo Silva who will drop in the mid and cover up for him if he is not able to do so. But as a City fan, I totally believe that Foden will be able to cover up a bit. Although David Silva is irreplaceable for us as a football fan, I don't think anyone comes close to whatever things he does, closing in the channels and finding pocket spaces. But Foden is altogether a different kind of player, and I hope we'll adapt to Foden one day, according to his strengths, according to his feet. So let's see how the future unfolds for City under Foden.
Yeah. Nishi, does it feel a bit like now or never for him? Because, I mean, if he doesn't perform, I mean, I'm sure he's going to get his chance this season, but if he doesn't perform, surely City can just go out and buy another midfielder, right? So is this season like it? If he has a good season, he'll be in. If he doesn't have a good season, does it feel like the end of the road for him? It is a start.
Yes, it does. It is now never for him, in my opinion, because he has been around the team for like last couple of seasons, right? And he played a little bit more this season. But even it's not like if he plays one game, he doesn't play the other game. He's not very consistent. Most of the time he came by as substitute. So it has to be his, penultimate, if not the last chance that Guardiola gives him, right? I don't think, surely he's a big boots to fill, David Silva. He is one of the Premier League greats. But I think, he really has to step his game up, because we haven't really heard, he hasn't really set the world alight till date. So he will have to, if he is going to replace David Silva. Otherwise, City will definitely be looking at a replacement. If not, maybe by next season if he doesn't perform in the coming one.
Yeah, so that's the sad part of being at a big club like City, is that you get a chance. If you don't take it, then there's always somebody else waiting. But the same thing as we asked Liverpool. We'll ask the same. Ayush, rival fan, what do you think City need to focus on to prepare for next season?
They need to reset their goals. If they can overcome Real Madrid, so they will become favorites to win this season's UCL. And we can already see, what Champions League did to Liverpool. We lost the league last season also by a heartbreaking 1 point. So if we had lost that UCL final, it could have shattered the team. So, but it gave us a spring to bounce back and go again for the league. So we can do the same for City also. So I think they will be giving their all in this season's UCL, and once they are able to, if they are able to get it done this time, and then for the league also they will be better prepared for next season.
Well, to be fair, Liverpool had the good benefit of playing Spurs in the final. I don't think City will have that advantage. They might play PSG, which may or as well be the same thing. But we'll see how that goes. We'll know more. What do you think they need to focus on then for the next month or so before the start of the season?
After the season, they need to bring in some signings for the defender, because that's the part.
One defender is not enough?
Yeah, obviously, one defender is not enough, because we have seen Laporte's injury, as he had missed this season as well, a big time, and he's only featured for 14 games. So we have already signed his backup, that is Nathan Ake, who's a left-footed ball-playing defender who could fill in his shoes when he is out, and hopefully we'll buy another world-class defender who can pair up with Laporte, because we don't have one right now. So once we get
out of sheer curiosity, are you guys required to sell players in order to buy them, or is there like an infinite amount of resources available? Because your defense costs more than countries, man. There are countries that would come cheaper.
Yeah, obviously. No, we don't have that thing, because we have enough oil as a resource.
Yeah, can they just buy Italy and then get all the defenders from there?
I think that's probably going to be their next move. If this buying Nathan Ake doesn't pan out, that's what they're going to do.
If the next move doesn't work out, we are planning to buy Chelsea as well. So let's see how it works with Abramovich.
If you need defenders, Chelsea is the last place you want to buy. Let me tell you that.
We're not talking about just defenders, the whole club.
If you invest so much money in mine, I'll be happy with it.
Do they need just centre-halves, or do you also think they need fullbacks?
The centre-back is the priority right now, because we don't have a good pairing centre-back with Laporte. And if Guardiola tends to go in the market for the fullback, it will be the left-back, because Mendy is a bit rusty after his major injuries, after his ACL injury. He has lost a bit of pace and a bit of sharpness in the game. So if there would be any other place, if there would be any other field which Pep Guardiola would invest next, it would be a left back, because we badly need one. And Zinchenko is not an option, because he lost all his form and his thing, because he was never a left back any day. So we'll be planning to get a left back. If not left back, we'll see how Pep Guardiola tends to go, because Cancelo can play there. And so if Pep Guardiola doesn't go in the transfer market to buy a new left back, Cancelo would be playing there next season as well.
That's cool. Well, speaking of Zinchenko, maybe he was taking one too many Instagram photos with all those trophies and those girls and forgot to focus on training. On that note, we'll get on to Manchester United. Speaking of overspending and spending on players, Samir, after that season, are you in, Ole out? Where do
Definitely.
you stand?
I've been since day one.
Ole in?
Yeah, because you could see the difference in mentality that he got into the team from day one. He loves the club. It's not just a job for him, and that rubs off on his players because you see the likes of Pogba, Martial, and lots of players who were just kind of doing their job are now playing for the club and actually look hungry to score goals, to create goals, to track back. I mean, Martial was always called lazy because he didn't track back as much. But these days, you look at him; he's always making runs. He's always tracking back. He's covering up. So that that shows that Ole has what it takes to manage a club like United because he has the ability to inspire his players to play for the badge and not just for the money, which we pay a lot of.
Yeah, for sure. He signed a new contract. But do you think the assessment from the media and the fans has been fair towards him this season? Do you think there's been a fair judgment on his abilities, his results? Or do you think it has been a bit of an overreaction?
I definitely feel like it was an overreaction because if you remember, we started the season really well. I think the first 3 games or the first 4 games were really good. And then we got the injury to Martial and we got the injury to Pogba and tons of smaller injuries. Fred was injured for a while. And it all kind of cascaded because United don't have a deep squad. We've cleared a lot of deadwood in the past summer and past few windows. So we have a very thin squad, and those injuries really affected the way United had to play and the kind of chances that they could create. So I think Ole did the best with what he had. Of course, he is responsible for the squad being so thin, but you can see there's a vision there. So I feel like people were very quick to jump on the Ole out brigade because, I mean, he's not a big manager, right? He's not a big name. He's just some dude who used to play for us and now used to manage in Norway. So definitely people wanted it. It almost felt like people wanted Ole to fail so that we could get a big name manager. I can think of a certain Argentinian name. So yeah, definitely. I feel
You're
like
not talking about Bielsa. No, I'm kidding. No, I know. No, I know who that is. That's okay. Yeah.
so
He'll probably be a right fit at United, though. I'd say
Yeah.
he's done well at one of them.
Well, if you know anything, I don't know I don't know if a former Leeds manager would be popular at Manchester United. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I mean, we accepted Rafa, so I think should be.
Did
fine.
you accept Rafa? All I heard was the fat Spanish waiter. That's what I heard, and we are
Well,
not.
yes, that was tough love. That's what it was. I mean, yeah, he did well for us. I'll just say that.
No, he did do well.
He did
yeah.
well for he did well for us. We thank him for his time.
Yeah.
So that's where I'll leave it when it comes to Rafa.
No.
not just the media, but I feel like especially the fans were very harsh on Ole. I feel like the media still wanted him to succeed a little bit because of the whole United bias that the media has. But fans, I feel a bit disappointed because he's one of our own, and a lot of fans seem to want him gone way before they could judge him properly.
Yeah, well, the only thing I would say is that a lot of the criticism wasn't just from the home fans; it was also rival fans who like anyone else. We all like a good troll, so I think it made sense for that. But
I always wanted Ole in. I always wanted him to be the manager of United.
Yeah, and why is that, Adil?
Because of his past results, he has been so helpful for other teams. I would never say a bad word for Ole.
There you go. See that kind of thing, right? Did you hear all the time? But on that note of transfers and squad clearing out, the one thing that Nishikant said was that you don't sign players because they're good leaders. You sign players because they're good footballers. Unfortunately, we signed Harry Maguire because he was a good leader. That was the only thing I could hear every time that we talked about Harry Maguire in the media. It was we're signing him because he's a good leader. And 4 months in, he's the captain of Manchester United because Ashley Young went to join the ex-Premier League club at Inter. for some reason, Inter Milan like buying ex-Premier League players. But on that note, Harry Maguire, Nishkant, I don't know if you've seen much of him, but do you think he's suitable to be a captain of Manchester United? He's a good footballer, but is he a good captain, a good leader for United?
Well, yeah, I think he sometimes gets a lot more stick than he should, probably because of his price tag. And one can argue on both sides here, but I think he is good for now. I think he'll be a good captain. He is pretty good at what he does. He's a strong defender. He'll only improve, and leading a club like Manchester United is not an easy task, and we often it's difficult to put the blame just on one guy, because if you see any successful club, and the Chelsea under Mourinho the first season, or Liverpool now, it's not just one player who's a leader. There is usually always a core of them in a successful team. So that's what Manchester United are lacking right now. They have some good younger players coming in from their academy. So hopefully they can be that core which has been missing for a while now, because Man United were always a team who had a core of their academy players. So that is something, and we need that more, and hopefully those academy players will be able to give the leadership. But I think Maguire is good. If they had like other couple of such characters in the team, they'll gel well together, and they'll be a very formidable team.
Of course, they do have a good penalty winner in the team, according to most fans now. But
the penalty
on that,
merchant, you say?
I'm sorry, others?
The penalty merchant is the keyword you want to say right now?
Yeah.
Yes, probably.
He has been a key player for them, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second, though. But one thing I know is that Harry Maguire doesn't go yell at the referees or tries to influence them for decisions. So I think he fails Adarsh Nim's captaincy test.
Because he's left behind, way too back.
Yes.
The players are scoring on the net, but he is on the half field trying to press them. And the celebration is going here. The referee is beside the net, but Maguire is at the half line. So he can't come here to argue with the ref.
Well, that being said, Ayush, you've seen Gerrard, you've seen Henderson do their thing. Do you think Harry Maguire compares with them?
I think Harry Maguire doesn't compare with Gerrard, but he does have similar traits to Henderson. I mean, he also comes back from small club, humble beginnings. I mean, he's not naturally as talented as someone like Virgil van Dijk, but he makes up it with his hard work and work ethic. So it goes well for this young United team who have some prima donnas like Pogba. So yeah, they need a steady Eddie kind of captain who can keep the egos in check in the dressing room also and on the field as well. Because Ole is not Sir Alex Ferguson who can give a hairdresser treatment to his players. So Harry Maguire can do that job, hopefully. So far so good for them. I mean, he's definitely a good captain for a top 4 team, any top 4 team. But to be championship winning material, he has a long way to go. If he can stick together like Henderson did at Liverpool, I mean, he was given a lot of stick before, and he's given to, as some would suggest that he's not player of the year material, but the football writers think something else. So they definitely value leadership quality, and hopefully Harry Maguire can also show that you don't need to be Kevin De Bruyne talented to be a champion.
You are absolutely right. He is not worthy of a Player of the Year award. Absolutely right, Ayush.
Okay. We'll
He
get
has
to
been
that.
nominated.
I was waiting for that.
We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. We have that as well coming on later in the show for part 2. But I mean, you made a very good point there about taking stick and being, coming from humble beginnings, and that does make a massive difference in some ways, in some regards. But speaking about just having leaders, and have you seen other leaders emerge from this team, Samir? Have you seen other leaders coming to the fore for Manchester United? We know Marcus Rashford did a good job over the lockdown. We've seen Bruno Fernandes He was captain at Sporting before as well. Are those guys maybe future captain material?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Rashford can be a captain for us. I don't think he has the he's not as vocal as a captain needs to be, I feel. But definitely, Bruno Fernandes is someone who's always harrying his players and asking them to get in position. He's always asking for the runs. And in the same way, I feel Scott McTominay might be a really good captain for us.
If he can make it to the first team, he's been a bit dropped off recently. Yeah.
It's just stage because he's still young. And of course, he's challenging Pogba for that spot. So it's not going to be easy, but I definitely feel he'll make it into the squad. And once he does, he's definitely captain material because you can see the passion that he has and the way he is always screaming and shouting to get everyone back in position. That's what you want to see from a captain.
Well, I know, Ayush, you said Pogba is a prima donna, and I know someone is going to be having words with you on that. If he's watching the show, he's going to have words with you on that, just so you know. I just want fair warning. But let's move on to the next thing, which is that with United, the one thing that we know that the offseason brings is transfer rumors, gossips. Lots of them. United seem to be linked with almost every player on the planet. And we know, well, there is some real strong rumors coming around. We know United have just completed the biggest deal of the summer, and it's not Jadon Sancho. It was getting rid of Alexis Sanchez from the team, which I think was much, much more important. But I think, what do you want to see? Who do you want to see come in? Who do you want to see go out of the squad, Samir, during this transfer window?
I mean, definitely Jadon Sancho.
Come in.
He has to come in this window because we have desperately needed a right winger for God knows how long. And even though Mason Greenwood looks good over there, I feel like his future definitely lies in the center. As far as other than that, I feel like it's a bit improbable, but Thiago wants to leave Bayern. So if we can get him and Liverpool don't approach him, that'll be nice. But even other than that, Jack Grealish is another one. But I don't know if he is going to be worth the kind of money Aston Villa ask for him because they've stayed in the league, so they definitely have more power in the negotiating now. But I definitely feel like United need a few players as backups, especially in the right wing. They need a first team player, but definitely they need defensive backup because we saw what happened when Shaw and Williams got injured in the same match. And we were playing Fosu Mensah and left back for a while. So, I mean, he did well, but it's not ideal. So definitely I feel like a few more backups and definitely Sancho. And if possible, Thiago.
There's also Donny van de Beek from Ajax, who's also available.
Place, I can't comment on that, but yeah.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Others, do you agree with those ins and outs? Do you think there are any other positions that United need to look for players?
Yeah, as Samir said, he said correctly because you need a pre-cooked player right now because United already have so many academy players who are ready to step up as you are giving chances to them one by one and they are stepping up. So, but right now what United requires is a pre-made player like Sancho, who is already performing at a high level, Champions League and Bundesliga. So they need more players like him, right? Especially at right wing, which the deal is like close enough to be disclosed to the fans. He'll be announced soon, Sancho. And they need a good left back as well, because I feel like Luke Shaw is not good enough to make up for United first team, as United would be competing for Champions League and Luke Shaw would be like far behind if a sprinter like Vinicius Jr. or even for Sterling goes towards the right. I don't think he'll be able to catch up with such players and would be suitable for that play. They need a quick or a more defensive left back than Luke Shaw at the moment.
Samir, do you want to answer that one? Well, Luke Shaw, do you agree?
Luke Shaw's had his problems with injuries and form, but ever since he's come back, especially after the restart, he's just been phenomenal. He's been one of the best players on the pitch, often overlooked because he's not involved in the goals and assists as much, but he's just been brilliant. Like, if you look at our back line right now, there's not a single position that I would change. unless we're going insane and thinking of transfers that probably and definitely won't happen. But there's not a single player that I would change. Not even Lindelof, who a lot of people point at. So I disagree.
Maybe De Gea? Maybe De Gea?
Huh?
Maybe De Gea?
I'm gonna give him one and then decide on that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Do they need to change goalkeepers? I mean, I don't think you need to buy one. They have one already. I mean, they have one already.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but okay.
They need to bring on Dean Henderson just for the competition's sake, because I used to rate Romero high, but sooner than later I realized that he is not a competition for De Gea at the moment. Same goes for Ole, because he doesn't have the balls to bench the player like De Gea, who has been a good servant for United for so long. But they still need a good backup for De Gea, and that would be Dean Henderson in my views, because they don't need to spend another 50 million for any of the keeper, or 75 million just like Chelsea to get a keeper. They have Dean Henderson for a backup. He can give tight competition to De Gea for that first place.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Adarsh, for that. And I'm sure if Mark Goldbridge is watching this, he's probably going to be really, really upset with you. I don't think he's going to watch it though. Maybe if he is, I'll tag him and we'll see what he has to say about your opinions on that. But Nishikant, preparations for next season. What do United need to do off season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need a couple of players, but they have really a good squad right now. So I think they need to do whatever they were doing after the start of the season. Once the restart happened after the COVID break, they played really well for the most parts. So they need to continue in the same vein, and I think maybe a couple of investments, not more, because they actually have a good team, in my opinion. So I think they'll be again challenging for top 4 next season. So they'll be there and abouts.
Samir, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we're going to be closer to the top 2 teams next year. Not necessarily challenging them, but definitely not a 33-point or 34-point difference. It's going to be a lot closer, and hopefully we can challenge in the cups as well, because it's been a while since we've had some club cup glory. I say it's been a while; it's just been a couple of years. It feels like a long time for a United fan.
It has been 3 years now since we last won a trophy. Since United last won a trophy, yes.
So I hope they can get to the maybe a couple of cup finals, and maybe the quarterfinals, hopefully the semifinals of the Champions League. Although I'm not very confident about that, but quarterfinals they should be making, and they definitely need to cover the gap to the top 2 teams and bring it down to maybe like a 10 or a 15-point gap at most.
Sure. Well, Nishikant, you did say that they should keep doing what they were doing after the restart. The one thing they should be doing, which they weren't doing, is rotate more. That is what they need to be doing.
Well, that comes down to squad depth as well,
yes,
right? And how many players they have had injury issues as well. So that comes down to that. But they have played really well. This team is now showing a bit of character, so that is going to serve them well.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. We're going to stop here for part 1. I hope all of our listeners enjoyed this video so far. We'll be back tomorrow with part 2, when we'll talk about Chelsea, the rest of the league, and then we'll also get your thoughts on the team of the season as well as your players of the season. So we'll talk about achievements as well. But thanks so much, guys, for joining me today. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll pick this back up again tomorrow.
Thanks for having us.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to that episode of Late Night Football. We need your help to grow this channel, so if you've been enjoying the show thus far, please do like and subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, family, colleagues, neighbors, drinking buddies, fellow football fans, and anybody else you know or don't know. We'd really appreciate it. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We have the links in the description below, and spread the word about us. Take care.